Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In our first story, you'll learn something from a military employee. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Want to wake up an air crew during mandatory crew rest time? Fine, we'll cancel mission-critical flights. This was 10 years ago in Iraq at COB Spiker. I was part of an air crew that flew mission-critical nighttime flights. I wasn't a pilot, but I flew in a support role in the back seat. We were lucky enough to each have our own little private rooms, called a CHU, with an air conditioner in each room and blackened-out windows. It was easy to sleep all day, then wake up at 1600 or 1700 and head to work. We had big signs on our doors, "Day sleeper, do not disturb, come back after 1700. The contractor in charge of safety and maintenance of the CHUs, it was KBR I think, decided one day they needed to inspect the smoke alarms and fire extinguishers in every room. It's a reasonable request. My boss gave KBR a list of rooms not to disturb until after 1700. Of course, they ignored the list, and we were all awakened to workers banging on our doors and letting themselves in. "Just doing my job, sir." Air crews are required by civil and military law to have adequate crew rest. It's more than, "Hey, get some sleep." It's a strict number of hours before flying that should be undisturbed. It can become a very big deal legally if there's an accident, and it's later revealed the pilot or air crew member wasn't given a chance to properly rest. As inefficient as the military can sometimes be, it's amazing what a single, well-placed phone call can do. My boss shamelessly canceled the evening's flights and called Colonel Head Honcho to tell him why. We never saw KBR again. They avoided us like the plague. And our next story. Get me fired? Say goodbye to your bonus and promotion. This happened a good long while ago. I got a job at one of the big box stores in the computer department. This store chain had an in-house technician department, which was always where I wanted to go. After busting my butt in sales for 2 years, putting up with rude customers, silly rules, and all the other glorious trappings of retail job, I finally got a chance to be promoted to the technician department. It was not as glamorous as I thought it would be. I quickly found out that most of the repairs consisted of running the prepackaged antivirus suite, updating Windows, and doing data backups prior to wiping computers clean and reinstalling them. I always liked tinkering with hardware more, but since 80% of customers had laptops and those repairs were deemed too complicated by corporate, we would just send the laptops out to get repaired by the third-party vendor. It was still better than doing sales by a long shot, and we had a great team working in the technician area, except for one dude. Let's call him Mike. He always behaved like his crap smelled like roses. He was technically a lead technician, and even though it just meant he had a little more authority, he had access to a corporate account to arrange shipments of computers to and from our store, he was acting like he was the manager of the department. Nevertheless, our actual manager was a splendid dude that took care of us, and as such, Mike's douchery did not bother any of us that much. Fast forward a little, and our awesome manager found a much better job. This opened up a spot for manager, and since the whole store supervision was going through a shakeup, the general manager was fired for embezzlement, and all the people he hired, 90% of managers, were under review. This led to everybody trying their hardest not to F up, and the new GM decided that since our department was one of the best in the district, he would not try to hire an outsider, but will promote from within. Now, Mike was working at this store for almost 10 years at that point, and a couple of people that started working with him as sales associates were by this point managers and assistant managers. One of them, Brittany, was an assistant manager in charge of customer service and checkout. One of the conditions for Mike's official promotion to manager was to keep the #1 spot in the district performance-wise. One of the key metrics was the rejection rate from our third-party vendor. If we mistakenly sent them a software problem to fix, they would charge us extra. Mike started obsessing about the numbers, especially when it came to the rejection rate. He insisted that we would spend extra time to confirm issues, even when there were recalls from manufacturers for these items. I hated this bureaucracy since it meant that people needed to wait almost the maximum allowed time to get their computers back. So a few times I skipped the extra diagnostics when I knew for sure the problem was hardware. One day, Mike decided to do an audit on all outgoing machines and found out that I've sent 4 units skipping his extra checks. He told me that he'll write me up for it, but when he tried, GM told him he's not a manager yet, and I've shown to the GM that I followed the corporate procedure in diagnosing these units. I thought that was the end of this, but I was sorely mistaken. Mike hated that I showed the GM that Mike's procedure was inefficient and that he was denied power over me. About a month later, I got a call from Mike asking if I could come to the store on my day off because there was an issue with a customer. When I came in, I was greeted by Mike with a crap-eating grin, and he told me to wait in the back and not work on any computers. After about an hour, Mike and Brittany come in and ask me to head to the front office. They started an official write-up process and claimed that I have made a mistake creating a backup of customers' data and have placed a DVD with no data on it into the box that was returned to the customer and then wiped his PC clean. I knew that was bullcrap, since I always copy the data to an external hard drive, run antivirus to make sure that nothing bad got copied, and then burn DVDs. Yet when I asked to check the external hard drive, Mike said that due to my negligence, I was not allowed back in the tech area. He went to check the hard drive and said there was nothing on it. At this point, I knew he was bullcrapping, but him and Brittany were hell-bent on completing the write-up. I've asked for a senior management to be present and was shot down again. Turns out GM was on vacation. They completed the write-up and told me that due to the egregious error that cost the company tens of thousands of dollars, I was not allowed to work in the tech room and would be relegated back to the sales floor. I told them to shove it and submitted my resignation on the spot. I later found out that a week later they gave the customer the data that was on the hard drive all this time. Mike simply erased the DVDs. I grabbed a DVD RW by mistake for that backup and waited for the customer to come back and complain. I've also called the corporate HR line and told them what happened. They said that since I quit with a letter of resignation, they would not launch an investigation, but they've since received and recorded my complaint. Through luck and the fact that I was a good hardware tech, I landed a job at a shop that did hardware repairs a week later and started in another week. Turns out this depot was the service center that covered the entire district, and they had the master contract with the big box chain where I worked. Since I've worked as the tech in that store, I was more than familiar with their labeling and ticketing system. For tracking purposes, the label included the store and technician number. After a couple of weeks, I gathered some goodwill at my new job and started trading units with my colleagues to work on as many units from my old store as possible. Over the next 3 months, I made sure that every single unit sent in by Mike would come back with an extra charge. Also, it turned out that Mike, since he was in charge of shipping, would sometimes steal other technicians' tickets to boost his personal performance numbers to secure that manager promotion. Well, that bit him in the butt hard. There was one week in particular where he sent in over 15 units out of 20 to get fixed, and 15 units came back with extra software charge. I've also kept detailed records that proved that Mike did not follow his own company policy of extra checks. When the performance figures came out for that quarter, store crashed into 5th place from number 1. Mike missed out on his promotion and a big bonus that was promised to him. A good buddy of mine from the store got the manager position a few months after that, and I've explained to him how to reduce the number of software charges to almost 0 so he looked like a superstar. Mike was first relocated to lead technician, then he was either let go or he quit, I'm not sure. Last I heard, he started his own mobile technician business that folded after a year. What I didn't know is that this whole incident with Mike effing up led to the GM to review everything Mike did, including my write-up and dismissal. As it turns out, they did not even register the write-up since I quit on the spot and buried it. The only way GM was able to find it was because of the HR complaint that was filed against both Mike and Brittany. GM was not pleased that they went behind his back to get rid of someone and fired Brittany. He was a very decent man who called me later that day and apologized and even offered my old job back. I thanked him, but I was making more money at the new place and did not have to deal with customers, so I passed. And our last story. So happy with myself. Screw you, lady. I'm sure we all see shopping carts sprinkled around the parking lots. Maybe some of those shopping carts' previous lessees had a life-threatening emergency, causing them unable to return said cart to a designated area. Who knows? Yesterday, I drove into my grocery store's parking lot The store did an excellent job situating cart return areas in such a way that it's convenient from any area of the parking lot. Most people here actually do their part. I pull into the row, I always do, and there are 2 free parking spots side by side. A lady is finishing up putting her stuff in the trunk, so I politely wait until she's done so I can swoop into one of the empty spots next to her. She finishes, closes the trunk, puts her empty cart in the middle of one of the 2 empty spots, and gets in the driver's seat and closes her door. Seriously? I parked directly behind her on a slight diagonal to allow other cars to get by, get out, and helpfully return her cart for her. We were about 20 feet from the cart return, but I figured she would have wanted it returned to the storefront to help the employees out. I returned it to the front, still within sight, and assumed she would have liked to help clean up some other stray carts that didn't quite make it to the return area, so I did that. When I got back, she didn't say anything. We made eye contact as I slowly walked back, got in, started my car again, pulled into the now cart-free spot beside her, looked to my left. She's just glaring at me. Then she starts her car and abruptly drives out of there. So happy with myself. Screw you, lady. At least pretend to put it out of the way next time. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.